Welcome to Phikelela podcast eNcindilili. Igama lami nguLuvuyo, surname nguNgxiki, ichomi zami zithi Vovo. We've brought you another exciting episode and I can't wait for lena. Ndiyayazi ndiyathanda ukutsho. Nizazibona nokwenu siphethe ilegend yalapha eBhayi, siphethe iGrootman yaseBhayi. Abantu abaninzi bayathanda ukhala ke ngubhuti waseBhayi. Ndiyavuya to say ngubhuti waseBhayi ngendlela epositive. Welcome, Grootman. Siphethe ubhuti Vuyo Mvoko.
Okay, I may not be your friend, but I still call you Vovo. No, good to be here, bro. Thanks, man.
Yo, ndiyavuya Groot. Ndiyavuya kakhulu. Nizawuthethela abaninzi. Le podcast into esifunayo ngayo. We want to celebrate. We want to inspire abantu. We also want to educate. Kuwe ke uzawuthatha kwezininzi, you know. Ba excited xana kubakho umuntu okhulele apha eBhayi. Enze izinto zenzeke ade ayofikelela global. Tina, we got to witness you doing this with presidents zamazwe. Tell namase siqomba udibana njani nala mntu when you've done that, you know. So ndi excited ngenxa yalo nto. So namhlanje umntana oseNew Bright, umntana kwaZakhele, ndifuna umnike nje into bangabana ungubani, ukhulele phi, and then sithathe nje kancinci apho into yoba for you to get to where you are ngoku. And noba wenza ntoni, you know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Bobo, I mean, ndizalelwe ndakhulela eNew Bright,
Eblawa,
Ferguson. Now called, named after a legend, George Pemba. So, Deshala proudly so.
Okay.
And Malnomas Ferguson by Engbani. Okay. You know, but now Deshala a George Pemba.
Inkosi ushare yazi bangabana ayikangeni kumlonto.
Ayikangeni abantwana abaninzi. Ayikangeni nakum.
Ayikangeni tu.
But ndikhulele ndizelelwe kulaa ndlu, 3-roomed house.
All right.
We Landa kuyo.
Okay.
And ndakhulela phaya.
All right.
Ndafunda ePendla, lower primary, then went to a Johnson Mahwanqa. From a Johnson Mahwanqa, ndaye eThamsanqa, iThamsanqa is called, you know, for about a year, and then I'm gonna count Madala. And that's where I did the rest of my high school years. So, and I grew up in a Christian family. So, Nandi Seva, got St. Stephen's, Cratton.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, grew up there. I sang in the choir, church choir. In the youth choir, I ended up conducting both the youth choir and the church choir. I sang as a school from iThamsanqa to the Crown High. Doc Mkondo, probably someone you know had an influence in my life. You know, he couldn't sing to save himself, but no, I'm being honest about this. And one of my regrets in the book, I missed his funeral. You know, but I love the guy. He was just an extraordinary man. So was Zola Topo, who was my high school mathematics teacher. An incredible guy. He exposed me to a couple of things. And one of them was actually broadcasting. I remember when we used to do excursions, go to what is now Mnombo, which was Radio Xhosa. Then, you know, so he would take us there. He would get me to read stuff. So I had incredible teachers. That's what I'm saying. I had Paula Anthony, who was my English teacher, but who I also hold in high regard, but as who was influential because the bug here journalism caught me. Sorry, I've got flu, so that's why I'm speaking, you know, the way I'm speaking. Excuse me. So When I said to my English teacher, what is now grade 12, metric, but I want to do journalism. He said, perfect, choice. But then I was already exposed to journalism. Zola Topo, that I'm talking about, was we did a cover night, which was a newspaper.
Oh.
A school win.
Okay.
But we only did one edition. Okay, it's something that apparently existed before Tinawi. So he wanted to revive it.
Okay.
And I was one of the people. He said, "Come and let's, do that." So that's when the buck.
Okay. Mina ke ndiyavuya qha ndiyifuna le pace siyibuse nje umva kancinci. Into sendinomdla wayo nje mbuthetha so that umuntu angaclaim athi befunda nawe. Yazi umuntu xa seyenzile ke xesa lomoya ndiyafuna uyazi into bangabana uzalwe ngophi umnyaka so that sizoyazi ba man man ngexesha le-apartheid lento ithethayo wasekunzima kunjani so it's important for
I'm a 1966 edition.
1966 hey Roti ngilahlela nje ko 76
I don't know why you do that, but yeah, I know a lot of people do. Yeah.
Yes. So
I think I'm a lot younger than I actually am. Yeah. I don't know.
No. Into enginomdla wayo ke kakhulu na from primary because njengoba sisenza lento we also want lo se primary and lo se high school into bangabana buse Pendla hayi man into yakwenza boma ube nomdla mhlawumbe kunzima abanye for ukukhumbula but bakhona into ziba stuck ku into bangabana actually kokunandi ku 3 kwenzeka into ethile ikhona into enjalo from the earliest memory onayo like from primary or high school.
I remember we did poetry.
Okay.
I remember coming second. Regional poetry. No, it wasn't really poetry.
Okay.
I mean, truly and honestly speaking, it was more. We're doing recitations. We're doing like Mice by Rose Furman. I think mice are rather nice. Their tails are long, their faces small. And of course, I mean, it was this thing was run by white teachers, so obviously, I mean, it was about the appeal to them rather than authenticity and being able to. For instance, I was Bungi. English. I think that's what it was about. But anyway, so those were early stages. I remember Oxagwana, the late, we were in that competition. No Hlekadu, Xagwana Makoni, no Hlekadu. We were in the same competition. So I remember my uncle, Phikelela, a Pete Evening Post.
All right.
Which was a newspaper at the time, but now defunct. I said, "Yo, Mchana, uzibonile uphume ephepheni."
Wow.
And that's a picture. Oh, you didn't. I should have shown you that picture. So, with family, and that was like a moment of pride. Wow. Yes. In a competition, and then
Kasibasele nje into bangabana ke ngoko endlini kukho mama notata like
I was brought up by my grandparents. Makhulu wam, notata omkhulu wam, my grandparents.
Okay.
I stayed with them. Landlun sahlala kuyo that I call home. Yes. Excuse me. So, I mean, they are figure every now and again, but Nyanam, my comedian son, Ngxiki, calls himself Kazolo. So Sisalapa Swabini now, but I grew up there. I was born in that house. My mom lived elsewhere, with my younger siblings. I was her firstborn, and then I've got 2 other siblings. But
akwenzeke njani
eMaselan.
Yenze kanjani yazi ixesha elininzi i-firstborn iyathanda uthathwa ngumakhulu but ke sakho sithini khona
No, until mna ndizalelwe phaya ndakhulela phaa. And then my mother then went and got married to a wonderful guy, that I admired, loved, so much, but who wasn't my biological father, And I think she did what was right, for her. And to this day, I actually, because a lot of times people think that people have regrets about what their parents or decisions that their parents would have taken. I think she was absolutely correct for her.
Wow.
Found someone who loved her, to bits, and who really appreciated her, and they grew up together until, he died before her, and which I think because now my biological father disputed,
Phika.
Yeah.
Your time.
But my grandparents gave me the best upbringing I could ever ask for. Being an nix, and I'm proud of them. Those are my heroes. Those are my people, and I will be I'm eternally grateful to them for what they gave me with nothing.
Wow. Yeah, Jonga, there are two things nje kule nto ngibothetha ngayo apha. One, andisavuyi ndisiva umuntu othetha ngohlobo othetha ngalo ngethi ethathwe ngumama wakhe. Yaqonda izinto ezininzi sizibona ku Facebook ngoku. Baninzi abakhalayo phaa ku Facebook ngento babashiywa ngumama. Baninzi ke and banezizathu zabo, where abaphatheka kakuhle ushiyeka kwabo. They wanted ubapha kwela cala, especially if umama uye watshata umuntu right. So i-siblings zakhe ezaziphana emane bawela ubangabo, So for you to share ngolo hlobo, we're not saying bona i-wrong or anything, experience yabo, yabo, but ndiyavuya nje into basikhe sive icala, and ndiyabona ke omakhulu notamkhulu hayi ke bona izitori zabo siloko abantu bebahappy kakhulu. So xana usithi from nothing, ndinomdla ke ngonoyazi into yoba unizithatha into yoba nanisokola at the time okanye utamkhulu nomakhulu engabantu abafundileyo bangafundayo.
My grandmother was a domestic worker.
Okay.
Wayesebenza iveki yakhe yayikwindawo eziyi-3.
Wow.
2 days komnye umlungazi, another 2 days komnye, and then 1 day, Friday, komnye umlungu.
Akagoduki okanye sihamba kusasa.
No,
betha
commute every day. Bus. Yes. So ukhwela ibhasi every day. Uyaphangela Monday to Friday. Kwabelungu by 3. What is now Central, by the way?
Oh.
I mean, there was a posh
No.
area at the time.
Where everyone,
like Central, Park Drive.
Yes.
That's the pies and I was like,
yes.
So that was a 5-day week.
Okay.
And then the weekend, usendlini nathi, and then at least Sunday uzaspekele rice nenyama netapile.
Okay.
And then on a lucky Sunday, hlambi jelly and custard.
Okay. Not just in Christmas, back home.
Yeah, well, every once in a while. No, it wasn't the regular thing, but she would then make the effort. Tadomkhulu wam, Tata, I call him.
Yeah.
But benzidi Tata Mama.
Yes.
It was never Tadomkhulu.
Yeah.
In fact, for the longest time, my grandmother wayengafuni kuthiwe ndingumzukulwane.
Oh.
Umntanakhe.
Okay.
Mama no Tata. And I remember the day but I knew by then because abantu bayathetha mos.
Yeah.
Umntana omnyaka. Yena umntana omnyaka umntanam. So she zealously guarded his space sakhe indobana andingo. But anyway, I understood. But babe my Tata
Yes.
My grandfather, he was a laborer. He did a lot of things. So there's something I've framed. He used to be in a certificate, as preservile, which was a testimonial from his former employers. But he was a good painter's boy.
Oh my.
So a painter. And then he worked at Boxes and Shooks.
Okay.
You know where Impala is now?
Yeah.
You know? Factory. So he worked there and commuted. Went by a walker from Ferguson to Zans. Talk to Zans with Tish.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then I commuted back home. So he was an ordinary laborer. I senza kwando akwazi uyenza emnika umsebenzi. Excuse me, ngelo xesha. You know, but it's just painting, or it's just uthutha izinto, a factory and all of that. So those were my parents.
Oh wow.
You know, abandikhulisileyo. Hence I'm saying from nothing.
Wow. No, nami bengibawela uyiva ngolo hlobo and ngokuyibona phansi uphoso because this is actually iyakhuthaza kakhulu to hear bangabana wena ulapha ngoku. Then ndiyafuna sinyuke kancike ngokunto bangabana high school so decide usithi wena you ufuna uba kwi broadcasting does. Indoni udibene nantoni phi?
No, I loved writing.
Okay.
Perhaps more because I was terrible at mathematics. You know, and the science and all of that stuff. Even though I did them. In fact, the passe immersium ubana I jongas mbondwin. Got an H, you know. That's how you know, that's how well I passed it. You know. But then I wasn't bad with languages.
Okay.
You know. Obviously English among. So I took to writing. I enjoyed writing. In fact, I enjoy the arts. You know, I don't know why, but I do. You know, like I collect a bit of art. That's why you see this thing back. About Nelson Makamo. This is a Nelson Makamo T-shirt.
Okay.
Laduma.
Yes.
I'm that kind of person.
Okay.
I'm into creative,
No.
you know, stuff. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be a doctor or an accountant or anything like that, you know. So what then? You know. So I was into music. I was into writing. So I sang in choirs. Eskolweni, Kaweni, Matthew singers, you know. And then I was doing a lot of writing. And then when I then went to, university, I studied there. What was then called Vista University. Zwide campus.
Bona ke le xozo ngena kuyo. Ndiyayibawela i-detail yento bangabana kungomnyaka othile uzifumana phe results. Usephepheni ulithengile iphepha, bunayo imali uthenga iphepha okanye kukho imali umuze baleka, you know, and that iphi imali for you to go pha.
Yeah. So 1984.
Okay.
I was doing matric.
Okay.
Account.
Tina 4.
And then there were boycotts ngela xesha, abanye bethu babhala, abanye babhala. You'll hear stories about dissenter and what have you, but cut a long story short, zange ndibhale in 1984.
Okay.
Then ekhaya, right next to KwaNgqoko.
Okay.
What is now KwaNgqoko.
Yes.
Back then, KwaWampo.
Oh.
It was a shipping.
Okay. Okay.
So I used to help Umpo out.
Okay.
I literally I ran the shipping, as in their tingsela, their order, their tini, and all of that. So I ran the shipping. In fact, ndoluke ngemali shipping.
Oh wow. Wow.
Uthenga impahla zobukrwala kwama-camps, And my mother came through for me as well. Sadibanisa, you know. So anyway, so 85, 86, 87, there's a shipping.
Okay.
And then 88, decided to go back to school.
Okay.
Do a matric again.
All
All over again. So went back to Kaun, did my matric. Wasn't great results, but abunga.
Okay. So go-87 uniform nabantu abazilight kuwe.
No, go 80, 85, 86, 87 and kosikolweni.
Ngitshela lo ndile bangabana
88 ndilikrwala.
Yes.
Ndisesikolweni.
Okay, ngitshela lo nba ubuyela ke ngesikolweni uyigrotman esikolweni. Zilight ezi.
Grotman.
Hey. Umisa kwazi nokungcolisa.
Mntana esikolo.
It
mattered like, I mean, go classmates zakho. Okay. I mean, the girls would be like booty, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Felt good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything.
I didn't know. And so, go 84 kwenzeka lo nibisenzeke eBhayi okanye ecountryn, then was keeper like 3 years. It turned out to be 4 actually. Then went back.
Did matric all over. All over again. And then 89. Then went to... Initially, I wanted to go to... Well, obviously, I couldn't go to Rhodes.
Okay.
University. Because they wanted good marks.
Okay.
So I wanted to go to Pentech.
Okay.
What is now... Cape... Technology
Peninsula.
University. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Excuse me. But andafumana ndawo napha.
Okay.
It was a last minute thing, so I had to come back. So ndabuya, then went to Vista.
Okay.
To do a BA degree.
So
Now,
Lamali,
and what I'm thinking about it, so you know, it was through people like my English teacher.
Okay.
Was knew people like Uxoza Vabaza.
Okay.
Now, Bratkoza was a lawyer, but at the time, there were initiatives to try and help students, you know, with Finland. So he knew Bratkoza too. Organize at least the registration fee and that's how I got the registration fee.
Oh, wow.
To a Pentech.
Okay.
But get on Duffman Pentech, so I had to come back. So Bratkoza. Change man, see change le Vista.
Okay.
And so that's how I got to a Vista. Got into like student activism. I was in the SRC and all of that. So I graduated with a BA degree. But one of my proud achievements was establishing a student newsletter. We called it the Student Voice, a Vista. And that's really, I mean, okay, Kaunite, which was the high school publication, was the foundation. Yes. But then from there, the bark then caught me. And then I went to but something I'm meeting was that during those 3 years, I remember sending an article, I thought it was, to what was then Weekly Mail, what is now called Mail and Guardian. And then came back. Well, it didn't come back. Instead, testimony, you know, we understand by the weekend you had a friend, he needs your alibi. So I'm a nati man. So
okay.
Off Cape Road. Yeah, Mount Road. So I figure kuchole article I had then they posted. So I wrote, I type my what people commonly refer to as stepfather. You know, why umfundisi umbesko, mberere saliso. So why any typewriter? Umhlala pa, in the type. Land and I found a post office, they email a weekly mail. So it was intercepted or whatever. I don't know how it happened. So as Chab said, hey man, so the article was about Amabutho election and their role and, you know, what they were doing. Akomalabisho manqina, Chabs of high election, that's why Amabutho anqindilili. So I wrote this article glowingly about the role that they are playing with community and all. Obviously, it was intercepted, and then as Chab said, yeah. And then the TH, man, it's not decent, man, because, you know, you look as Melanga was a lot shop. So if no man right, look is be right. You know. So it's not decent, since ubazi our band. And the nigga form are empty. But anyway, ain't going to you go. Hey, just you know, my dear thing, I think up, otherwise, Sakvalela.
You?
In the sign land. So I'm left-handed. So this signing right. Land banner demonstration about yeah, I was doing this under duress.
Oh, okay.
You know. So signing, you know. Okay, I'm like on phone, that's numbers. There was phone. Hey, Pumakampa. There was a place called Legal Resources Center. There was a lawyer there who ended up being a judge, Uprafix, Upam. So he was running a Legal Resources Center from a north end. I went straight there. Uprafix, here's what happened. You know? So I want you to know. Uprafix records this thing and then keeps it. No, fine, relax. Yeah, well, let me know. But yeah, I never heard from those guys after that. So, but anyway, it was like, shit, this thing got me into trouble. This journalism thing that I thought I was trying out. So fast forward to a university, then I established a student voice together with my comrades, SRC and in the student movement. Then that's actually into Phikelela to then, when a weekly mail was wanted interns, then I applied. I remember I wanted to go to interview. I needed to go to interview. But the rule was that you have to bring yourself to Johannesburg and then reimburse a train or bus or taxi.
Okay. This.
Hey, dear Umpo was my boss, the shipping king. But funding, kukolendo. Hey man, asinamali uyabasithengisa stokile ngale veki yabo. I'm like, but I nayo nyani. Ayingundu ihulumeni yami ke. Sivana ukufa even to this day. But pokotho zakhe zinenyoka, yabo.
Usekhona uMbumbo?
No, khona. Oh. Pokotho zakhe zinenyoka. Angumntu uthanda ufaka isandla.
Okay.
Man, funding man, yabo. Hey, I remember that Friday night. I was miserable. The only reason I was miserable was because, and I told these people, but no, this is the rule. This is how it works. So I get a call from, many people will know him, Bradon Matera. He was a poet, but he was also involved in the training project. A guy will go phone next door. So calls them the startup. No, up next door, right next door. Not in, Sis no one dealer. He's still there. Called me. Vuyo, we are busy. The phone in. It's this guy, Don Matera. He says, Mhlekazi, utwa awuzi. I couldn't raise the money. He says, Mhlekazi, I'm calling about wenzinduni. About your banka, you have to be here tomorrow.
Wow.
But I don't have the money.
Yeah.
Ati, let me tell you something I shouldn't be telling you.
Wow.
Yeah, Colin. You've got all we want now is to essentially tick the boxes. Udi, your record speaks for itself. Udi, what youngster or university student starts a publication like Kube and so you need to get yourself here. That threw me with I was in a spin. But now what? And this thing is the next day. So you may know George Luce,
Yes.
the photographer.
Yeah.
He used to run a salon, Spinky. Yes, so Ngogumpo now takes this thing seriously. Yeah, all of a sudden. Because when we easy. Like, you know?
Yes.
And you George. Taking the salon Ngalamini, at the flight from in the morning. I take the flight in the morning to Joburg, prioritize where I come back. It takes. The rest, when the cons our friend would say, is biology. You know? So then I got an internship, a weekly mail. I was there for a couple of years. And then I got a scholarship to go to Australia to do a master's degree after that. And then, I've been working. Like newspapers, that's where I started. Business Day, Mail and Guardian, Business Day. And then when ETV started, and then I was recruited, but I was already in Parliament for Business Day at the time. So then ETV started as an alternative to the SABC. So they recruited me I set up their bureau in Parliament. And then, I've been, eNCA, SABC, and now
as we move on this speed up as quasi the funeral transition from umntana kamakhulu notato mkhulu. Ndiyayifuna sihambe slow from into yoba ngabana when you were 18 kwamoshakala, yabona? So for omnye kuzomoshakala ngenye indlela ngoku, because we are talking to someone othi bomi bakhe hayi yena ungwalapha eNew Bright, and this is it in New Bright. So ndifuna ba understand but akho bikho nditshintshileyo. What happened back in 1984 uyotsho 1988, they can still do that. You are saying to us awabhala and that kwabakho 3 years usebenza shipping, it means awulelanga uya assista uyenza izinto, and between la 3 years you even wrote something uba ndisengumuntu as much as ndilapha but still you write for eNCA, you know, level of thinking yakho as mhlawumbi a 21-year-old, as a 20-year-old. Ngoku xa sijonga umuntu ona 20 ngoku abantu bayakhala ngama-2000 ba awusungabantu abo, like basically.
You know, I think one of the advantages I think my generation had, it was the level of consciousness.
All right.
About our condition and how or what we needed to do to get out of our condition.
All right.
And I mean, the liberation struggle, I think, I'm not saying I think, did. Like, it gave us, I mean, the focus that we needed. We took nothing for granted. Okay. We knew that we were responsible for getting ourselves out of the misery that apartheid, wanted to confine us to. So that then meant you read.
Okay.
That meant you listened. Okay. That meant you aspired. You know, that you had things to look forward to. You took nothing for granted because nothing was on a platter. You know? To get out of the situation we're in, you needed to do something.
Yeah.
So I read a lot.
Yeah.
So I listened a lot. You know? So, and that kept you. Yeah, well, I will like say about jive. That's jive, of course. Yeah, one. You know, but the drive was there. You know, it was always that thing in Bana. You know, this is your driving ambition. Whatever else happens, have fun, hell, you know. But remember, you know, there's a task bigger than you. You know, and together with other people, we shall.
Yeah.
You
So la first job sila ngayo nendlela uye ngayo phayana uBrad George. Shout out to uBrad George usekhona. Ndiyamthanda kakhulu. Yayiphotographer yalapha eBhayi. Banceda kubekho abantu abanjalo to assist.
Of course.
Unangaphi ngelaa xesha ngoku njengoba sowugqibile ngapha i-BA yakho eVista.
Yeah.
Njengoba kusenzeka usenza le apply for this post.
Yes. Okay. It was literally on my galanyaka and graduate.
Right.
Yeah. Because I graduate in December. Band yoqala a weekly mail in January.
Oh wow. Yo, khange kube uphole no Paul.
No. And ifika kanye ngelixesha kuzophume results, you know, and all of that. So I immediately apply and then basungena. Yeah. I was that fortunate.
Yeah, no.
And which was good. And we second year, by then we had the first democratic elections, and I mean, wow, it could not have come the whole thing. I mean, to have been a journalist in 1994, junior as I was, you know, at the time was just something else, you know. Yeah. And it's something that has come in, putting it mildly, handy, because 30 odd years later, I look back and I'm suddenly, people might be veteran, hardly, you know, but you have reference points.
Yes.
You have an experience, knowledge that very few people who are still, you know, in the industry have. You know, I do a lot from memory and from experience. In other words, it's not something I have to read. It's not something I have to be told by somebody. It's my lived experience.
Wow.
You know? And hence, I mean, okay, I'll probably become a bit lazy. You know? Yeah, but I mean, that's the reason I've been group political editor at SABC. I've been editor for a couple of publications. I'm at Newsroom Africa, which is where I am. I'm an eNCA.
Okay.
You know, I do a daily, weekday show in the afternoons, between 3 and 5.
Live, yon.
Live, yeah.
Okay.
It's live. It used to be Monday to Friday, but now it's Tuesday to Thursday. But that's because Mondays and Fridays I'm supposed to do editors.
Oh, okay.
I have a team.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm doubling up as politics and economics editor at the same time. So the 2 days are meant to then take that into account so that I'm not overburdened, but at the same time I still do my on-air stuff, which is not doing badly in numbers terms, you know, and all of that. So yeah, that's what I do now.
Do you remember ufika kwakho, because ngoku wafumana intlahla ngendoba uthi uGreat besongena, abantu baninzi xa bemane beposta kulo social media ndini bakhala ngendoba bafuna i-experience ye-30 years kodwa umuntu una-23. Wakunjani wena ufika kwakho phaa? Did you have a mentor ufika kwakho indoba wakanye wavele wathrowa in bakuthiwa zibone?
No, I mean, back then, I mean, and in all fairness to which like current generations, and that's probably going to be the case, God forbid, going into the future. I mean, there were few of us. I remember back then, I mean, people would say, journalism, why? You know? But right now, you have so many aspiring journalists because they can see, I mean, from on television, on the radio, you know, this thing is real in more ways than was previously the case. You know, so we were fortunate in that the pool was much smaller. There were more opportunities, I would argue, back then than is the case right now. And it's through no fault of current generations.
Okay.
It's just the way it is. You know? Which then is the reason some of us have to keep knocking on the doors of decision makers, whether it's politicians or business people, to say, you have to be deliberate about creating opportunities for people. Because unless you do that, unless there's a deliberateness about us planning for the future, current and future generations are doomed. It's just that reality. But I consider myself to have been very, very fortunate. You know? And hence one feels a responsibility to then do something. I want to talk about a couple of things I'm thinking about. But a case in point, we were deliberate about setting up Bay TV.
Oh.
It's now Mpuma.
Mpuma Kapa TV.
I was the first chairperson.
Oh.
I raised together with comrades, like people like Omutse and Fuleni, Samkelo, you know, about setting up that thing. Because I had the persona, the experience, the people who came through for us on that project. I remember, going to Zwelakhe Sisulu, we spent about 3-4 hours with Siniaki. They said, "Mebron, all we want is for people like you to get us going. And then the rest we'll take care of." He said, "Okay, I trust you. We are not buddies. We don't know each other much. We know each other from industry. But I'm going to trust you with this thing. I'm going to second people. We're going to pay the stipends of we had about 32, 34 young people. So we'll pay their stipends for 2 years.
Wow.
We'll give you equipment. We'll second people to come and train you. You know? And that's how Bay TV, you know, got off the ground. Look at what it is now.
Yeah,
only a couple of weeks ago, I was in Somerset East. And came back here and I was like, the stuff going on there, I need to make a noise about that.
Yeah.
Guess who assisted me? It was a crew from
I saw that
Puma. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's about being deliberate about stuff. Or deliberate about coming back from Somerset early so that I go and do that hit there. Because you're talking about, you know, close to 1,000 people who are going to be without jobs. And if you consider, Bana, what each person, how many people umuntu ngamnye pha uyabona obaxhomekeke kuye, you know, like this is a struggle with waging, you know. So it's about deliberateness. That this is the point I'm really making, you know. The couple of projects I'm hoping that the African Dioma, you know, go not Mike Pants, but Mike watch yabo. Like aku for Mike about doing this. He does a lot in his own, you know. But Mike ade sobana enkani Mvoko sobana enkani kwetini ndim owachayo ndim obonayo ba, you know, unenkani not wena ndithi kwetini masenze lendo, you know. It's people like those now who have drive, you know, and we don't have who move from ungabe la ba akana nix, you know, but net determination, net drive to actually do something. You know? And I think that propelled me and I think that's what we need, you know. Never say die. Attitude, you know. And
funa ulibala ke le piece ba uma khona tamkhulu, did they get to witness the success yakho?
Unfortunately.
bahamba kungekenzeki izinto. Were you even at Vista okanye even before then?
Yeah, well, I mean, my tata been to high school.
Okay.
So I work. And mama been to university.
Oh, my
Vista.
God. Yeah.
But
That's
yeah, my
the
mother was
conversation.
alive. Yeah.
I-conversations akamakhulu nje mose university uyayi-understand uba i-life izayakude kodwa
Angayiboni kahle.
Angayiboni.
Angayiboni kahle, but ke appreciating into yobana, hey,
alright.
yabo, because ke, I mean, my mother made a big deal of my graduation.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're a small family,
Yeah.
so it was a first.
Oh.
I remember mna was sasegla dilemma and do we even celebrate or do we even go to a graduation, let alone graduation? Was there it was until I mean there was a boycott a graduation, was we don't want to endorse the establishment, you know. But by then, izinto zazi a bit loose. But kumula, I mean sis wapa khangin. We wantengela a hood and a cap.
Oh, wow.
And then we hired the gown. You know. But by then my grandmother had passed on.
Oh.
So about one kapayo your graduation was my uncle and his wife.
Oh. Mama yena kaya?
No.
Oh, okay.
Guess what?
Why?
Because we are pack up endlini. Chicken piece, rice, you know. That's what she was doing. So she was like, no, no malume.
Yeah.
You know? Then I didn't even know what Gandhi, and she had planned a grand, you know, thinking about lunch, a proper to celebrate. Shampoo ponyan. Of course, it was before the AGF, not that she would have afforded.
Yes, njengoba uyibalisa uba yayinto enkulu ngelaa xesha, ndiyafuna ukuthi izinto zenzileyo in the past 30-something years zinkulu. Because if we are talking 93, that's already 32 years ago. So what you have done, not for the New Bright, not for the Xabeka, for the country, in the Bangabana, you've done so much. Zikhona highlights on us, the Bangabana, statesman, was interviewed our team. Okamba, yay, uphuma naso is or country, okay, waya kuyo konba. Tinglamdana kamakulu. Tinglamdana wayedla ngosebenza phe next. Just take us through as on there.
No, I mean, I've sat with, like this, more presidents than probably
Yeah.
anyone. You know? I mean, I probably had a dozen interviews with your Thabo Mbeki, with your Jacob Zuma, with your Cyril, with you know, everybody. You know?
Any president
I've spoken to, I don't know, maybe a dozen presidents elsewhere. When we're talking about Botswana, Lesotho, you know, Zambia. I mean, the former president of Zambia, who died a couple of weeks ago, was supposed to be buried this week. You may remember the incident. And the crew.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, what actually happened was we had just been to Zambia to do elections there.
Yes.
And then Edgar Lungu then came to the country for medical attention. So I was the obvious person to then go and cover the story. The hospital wouldn't allow us in. It was a private matter. So we ended up at the breach in Mill Park.
Okay.
So we're busy broadcasting and some thugs come, get our phones and, you know, as we're about to go live, so it was messy, you know.
Of a new bright.
A bit of that. Like, hey, man. You know?
Yes.
I mean, hey, Sapa, hey, instinctively. And then by the time crew seyisetyenziwe, so kushiyeke mna because ndisezibhaneni or ngomnye umuntu ungapha behind the lights and sekusebusuku. So but point I'm making is that, I mean, I've spoken to like a lot of presidents. I've done a lot of stories that I've defined. I mean, I was the go-to guy for the Nelson Mandela broadcast, which was the biggest story that I was at the SABC then, you know, we had to do. And we knew in terms of the plan, I was the guy who had to say, we're stopping everything, all channels. There's a major announcement that had to be made. Because remember, as a former president, only the sitting president had to make the announcement. And as the national public broadcaster, the SABC had to close all channels for statement. I was the guy who had to say, hello, everyone.
Ilizwe malime.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, you know. We did the broadcast. This is not Xolo Grootboom.
Yeah.
We're the main drivers of the program. Yeah, so, and yeah, they've been quite a...
Jonga Roti, uyithi nje le ingathi into live. Yo, ayinkulu le nto ithethayo. Yo, this thing ndifuna umntana oseNew Bright ayibona how possible it is. And ndiyayithanda, andifuni ke abantu khona la mistake isidla ngoyenze yoba ngabana xa sincoma umuntu obekhuliswe ngabantu like a domestic worker okanye labourer, abantu bafuna ukucompetisha abantwana bangachuzanga ubana bazala bangogqirha. I don't want that here. I just want to focus on the positive yoba kulona yena azobona uba possible. And inye into abantu begala amanzi esingayifuniyo, isikolo important. Ukhutshwe sisikolo nangento uyicacisile kamandi ba at that time into nayidla ngonephusha. I am so excited ndoba abantwana baseNew Bright, abantwana bakwaZakhele, abantwana basezinyoka, it is still possible. It is still possible. Ndla ngoxa ngibona nabanye intoba ingxaki ekhoyo ngoku intoba i-criminals around them, but bayanqatyelwa kuhlala ne-journalist, bayanqatyelwa kuhlala nogqirha. For them bazova istory ba lo gqirha kazalwanga successful.
Exactly.
And i-circumstances zabo zingafana nofana uthuka uba hayi nayo ikhusa umakhulu njengoba ikhusa umakhulu like injalo. So I am so yeyona ndenza excited sitting with you ngoku and sishare ngolu hlobo. And ke ngoku uzona i-criminals ngabantu basayithupha, and abantwana ngoku they are exposed to that into yoba ngabana awubani u-10 uthi wenza le wenza that, and then abantu bafundileyo bona ba-modest nje bangabana man, it's not a
you know, I mean, one of the things you know, mega selection.
Yes.
People always wonder, and especially over the years, you know, kutheni nihlala notsotsi?
All right.
No? No, man, nomntu ufika apha.
Apha ebhanki.
Ahambe nabatsotsi, ahle senyuka nabo, ahlale nabo. You know, and you know, benze izinto. Ngaba ndikhule nabo. But a lot of them.
Yeah.
These days, I mean, ngoba ayizondanga zami.
Yes.
Now, sahlala ndanga zami, and we do all of that. But I'm deliberate about inspiring people.
All right.
You know, people look up to you by and then people start pouring their hearts, you know, hey,
oh wow,
you know, and unikela themba indobana.
Oh wow.
And a lot of them actually have.
Wow.
Just that I don't want to mention
yes,
name.
no, it's fine.
You know, izolo suke emncwabeni, you know, out grand, but wayefaka imali emlonyeni yawuxa vele ubetha into zakhe yawona abuya afika jive yawona athi akalukhuda ndiyazi bana ngabanjwa ngomso
Yeah,
Yabo?
but enjoy
So,
ke ngoku.
ngenjoya lo mzuzu while ndisakwazi ubana, but now he's a family man.
Okay.
Enze into zakhe, yabo, proper, kakuhle, uphuma kuyo yonke laa nto. And so have a few, you know, I mean, of them, okay, banye, but still, you know. But
Okay,
the point about this is that you, by doing good, awuyazi, don't look for your results ngoku.
yeah.
But awuyazi impact onayo ebomini bomntu. Ungakhange umnike nesent. Just by embracing them, by making them feel human, which they should be.
Wow.
You know? Impact obanayo ebomini bakhe. Amntu is
Yo,
can't be quantified.
mna ndiyabulela bawuzile, and I'm sure a lot of people are excited and they get bave izinto. Xa sizawurapha up ke ngoku uzichazile indawo yekuzo nee-presidents oye wahlala nazo. Ndikuvile ke yonke amandela oqonda uba kwi-career yakho ngeyona you feel uba kwenzekile. I-awards bukhe wazifumana okanye asuzinto ezibalulekileyo ithini oqonda uba na this one indawo yakhe yakucelebrate oqonda uba this it means something kuwe. Ikhona award ikhoyo in your mind?
Well, I mean, for me, the most outstanding was, I mean, there's been a time, especially over the past 15 years especially, when things have gone awry, ebomini bethu, you know, because political leadership in particular betrayed us or the cause of our struggle. You then had to take a stand. You then, but you know, such things come at a cost. So, lost my job. You was kicked out because I had to stand up for what was right. But of course, we were later vindicated. But we're proud of what we did in our own little corner. And so did many other people, you know, because otherwise I think we would be living in a different country today were it not for people making sacrifices in order to change the course indlela besisiya kuyo. Besisiyeliweni basically. And a lot of people stood up, but it took a collective effort. We individual little corners, which as the so-called SABC 8 at the time, we did. Where we stood up, we said, the national public broadcaster is not a state broadcaster. It's not owned by the politicians who were running the country at the time. Thus far and no further.
Yeah.
And we're recognized for that. And I'm proud to have played my own small little part in that. Right? Of course, we were vilified, but in the end, I mean, we went through the courts. I had to be reinstated and all those things. But for me, it was one of those crowning moments.
Okay.
You know, for which, of course, we were recognized by our own peers in the form of South African National Editors Forum. And we then got to get the award for courageous journalism. Wow. And that, I think, will be one of my crowning moments. Because it was without expecting any gain, financial or otherwise. And it came at a huge cost. As a family man,
I can imagine. Awunamsebenzi.
Awunamsebenzi.
Yo.
Uhleli endlini, and no one wants to touch you.
Yo. I can imagine.
But also, I mean, I remember I was the first person to be recruited by the Guptas to set up the New Age newspaper. And when I saw through this thing, what it was about, got up, took my jacket, left. They were paying me a lot of money. But I had to leave that because it was a betrayal of what we are about as a people and as a nation. So I had to walk and didn't have a job.
Yo, level enjalo integrity.
But knowing what everybody knows now about who the Guptas were and what they did, it was another kind of moment. We say, I left for nothing. I didn't have a job. But I said, there is no way I'm going to do this with a clean conscience. So I had to walk, and I'm proud I did.
Yo, but I didn't have respect for him, and I didn't know these things was that time. Ndiyawuthuka. Hey, kakhulu uba journalist as well and uhlale kwinto right. Ayikhulula tu.
Tough and rough.
Yeah, I can imagine. Puti, thank you kakhulu ba ulapha. Ukhumsha kamandi man. Hey, ndlela pronounce ngayo amagama. Hey, handball ukhumsha la hlobo. Hey, ajonga sizabaxaka apha kule podcast. Lahlele lo magama ngolo hlobo.
Well, yeah, thanks man for having me, but it's also a recognition of your own courage, your drive.
Thank you.
Given your past and who you've become. I'm really proud of you. Really honored to be sitting.
No, thanks.
I just wanted to know that I appreciate that, and that's why I couldn't turn you down.
Oh, man, Puti, ndavuya kakhulu. Thanks. Yo ndiva kamandi. Yeah, no ndiva kamandi kakhulu. Hey, on that note, siyayivala uPhikelela podcast engqindilili. I don't know if uyamazi uStuta ke from Pakuni New Bright ke. uStuta ke nguye othanda uthetha ngento engqindilili. Everything kuye ingqindilili xa ithanda. So, thanks to everyone obukeleyo. Please subscribe and like ipage yethu ku-YouTube and ungaphoswa ngezinto sifumana obhuti banjena and besaphila. You know, there's this thing about abantu basicelebrate besaphila. I'm excited ngaloo nto leyo. You know, I'm excited kakhulu. Thank you so much, man. Thanks, gents.